Welcome everyone. Welcome to Bropair.com. Today we have Andrew and he's gonna talk about his experience as an au pair abroad. So thank you for being here. And yes, so let's get started. And so where are you from? How old are you? Where are you based right now? Tell me something about you.
All right. So thanks for having me here. So I'm Andrew. I am from Canada, and I'm getting kind of old now. I'm 28, but I just turned 28, but I'm still enjoying au pairing. I started almost 3 years ago now, was the first time. So I started in Austria, and I also au paired in Italy, but currently I'm in Spain. So I'm with my fifth host family, but the first one in Spain.
Okay, and why did you become an au pair? How did you get to know the program?
I had a friend or a colleague actually in Canada, a friend colleague, and she was an au pair in Spain. And when she told me about that, I asked, "What's an au pair?" And she explained to me how she went to another country and she lived with a family and she became part of the family and she helped with the kids. And I said, that's a real thing, like that's something people do. And she said, yeah. And I asked, oh, like, and how do you like it? And she said it was great. So it was about a year later, because I had my next year planned out, but a year later I thought, you know, maybe I should look into au pairing. And I did, and I found a family. Well, I found a few families, but anyway, I selected a family and went there and really enjoyed it.
Okay, so what was particularly interesting for you? The fact of the cultural exchange, or, for example, the fact of working with the kids? What were you looking for?
A bit of both, but I mean, I guess the number one would probably be the cultural exchange for me. But that being said, of course, I do enjoy working with children, and like I've done it in the past. Before au pairing, like I coached soccer and I did some community theater. So it's something I've always enjoyed. But yeah, but I think it's a really, really good way to experience life in another country, like through the
Yeah,
eyes of the family. Yeah.
absolutely. And well, of course, my next question would be the research. Normally, well, it's very likely that female au pairs are the ones getting the family right away, more or less. So, was it
Mhm.
difficult for you to find someone being a bropair, so a male au pair, or was the process kind of quick for you as well?
For me, it actually was not difficult. But that being said, I also left my search parameters quite open. So like, I mean, in terms of where I wanted to go, like I was basically happy to go anywhere in Europe. And so I mean, that was the number one. Like that gave me tons of options for countries. And then it was like I was okay with the city, I was okay with the country. So that helped. And what I found is, of course, a lot of families do want females, and I mean, I totally understand that. But then I found like some families don't mind either way, and actually quite like a decent number don't mind having a male or a female. And then some families prefer a male because they have three boys and they're 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, something like that. And for those families looking for a male, it's not easy for them to find one because as you said, the field is mostly females. So anyway, so I talked to a few families like that, and I always found that I was in pretty high demand. So it was never a problem finding a family, but yeah, maybe if I was very, very specific in my request, that probably would make it difficult. But with an
Yeah.
open parameter and willingness to go almost anywhere, that made it pretty easy.
Okay, so the criteria they helped for sure, because of course, the more country you have, then the better it is for you. Okay, that's pretty cool. And concerning your research, like the host family, were you looking specifically for somebody who, for example, was able to speak English or French or any other language, or were you open also to the language criteria?
I was also open to the language. Well, I guess I did need a host family that spoke some English. For me, it was like my idea of learning the language was a bit of whatever I can learn, and I mean, pick up a bit is great. But my primary goal of au pairing was not necessarily to become totally fluent in another language. So I mean, I was flexible about where I go, and that's also because I guess I guess for me, I thought I'm probably not going to like master the language and then work in that field. However, I know for some au pairs that is a big goal to master the language. But anyway, so sorry to answer your question. I really only speak English. I'm a sad unilingual North American. So so I was looking for families that spoke some English, and that was also never a problem. Like a couple of families I talked to, they asked me, "Do you speak any German or do you speak any Italian?" I said, "No, none." And they said, "That's perfect. Keep it that way because then our children will have to speak English." And yeah, and it always worked good with the kids and with the parents.
Okay, great. And so you had five host families in total. Would you like to tell me something about them, more or less? So how many children were there? Where the nationality of the family? Because of course sometimes maybe the family lives in Germany, but the nationality is a bit different. I would like to hear something about that.
Okay, so well, I'll start with the first one, I guess. The first family was in Austria. So I mean, so I had calls with them from Canada. They were. I was in Canada. I was calling them. We decided to go for it. So I did all the paperwork and came. And anyway, and they were a what do you call it? A mixed nationality family. So the dad was Austrian, but the mom was Peruvian. And I think she might have had some Spanish roots too. So anyway, Peru, Spain roots, and they were living in Austria, and that was really neat because I kind of got an extra culture that way. I got the Austrian culture, and she would sometimes make food from Peru, and yeah, and her kids were fully trilingual. They spoke German and English and Spanish as well. So they were a lot smarter than I am, or smarter than I'll ever be. But yeah, uh, yeah. So that was that family. They had three boys who were basically 11, 9, and 7. Um, and they played sports on the weekends, and that was a family that was specifically looking for a male au pair since they had three boys. Yeah. So I guess I can move on to the next family. The next family I was with was in Italy, and they had four children, and they had a girl, boy, girl, boy. So 13, 11, 8, and 4 were the ages. And that one was really nice. That one I ended up being a bit more part of the family. So I guess, sorry, going back to my first family to explain, I was their fifth au pair. So they were obviously very experienced with the au pair program, and um, they knew what they needed of their au pair and etc. But with this Italian family, I was basically their first au pair. They had kind of had, I mean, people come and stay a little bit, but I was pretty much their first one. And they needed somebody really for the summer when the kids were out of school. And I mean, they were more in a smaller town too, but that was okay because I spent basically all my time with them. Um, and like including a lot of my free time. So we would go to the mountains and we would play board games on the weekends, and sometimes they had people over. This was all before Corona.
Where
Um,
they were located?
where? They
Yeah.
were about 35, 40 kilometers east of Milan.
Oh, okay. So in the north.
Yes, yes, yep, northern Italy. Yeah, my first Austrian family was in Vienna, or just outside of Vienna.
Hmm.
So yes, they were in the north, and yeah, they were both Italian though, and yeah, got to try a lot of Italian food, see some of the Italian culture, so that was really cool. Then I ended up going back to Austria because it was kind of easiest to renew my visa there. And I au paired for a family in Graz. And they were also Austrian. They were Austrian and they had 4 children as well. And they were 8. How old were they? It was 2 boys who were 8 and 6, and 2 girls who were 3 and 1. And with that family, my primary role was taking care of the 1-year-old actually, while the other kids were at school and the parents were at work. So I was with her during the day, and yeah, and they were quite Austrian. Like their parents were Austrian. I think they were Austrian quite a bit back. And well, basically, I left them when coronavirus kind of started because then when the parents were home a bit more, they didn't need somebody so much for the kids. And they were also, well, of course, we all were concerned, but they were, I think, really concerned about the virus. I, so I went to another family that I found, which was kind of really in the country in Upper Austria, so north of Salzburg, close to the German border. And they were, let's see, the mom was Austrian, the dad was German, but they had lived in the US for over 10 years, I think. And they had 2 boys who were 8 and 10, and they were both born in the US. So they spoke very good English, the boys. And yeah, and that one I stayed with them for, well, that was only really 3 months because that was kind of a last minute thing, but we had a really good time. And yeah, and it worked out good because the kids were home from school because of the closures, and I was there to play games with them and go on bike rides, and it worked well. And I guess that brings me to the family I'm with now. So I had a bit of a break in there for about 9 months, I think, and then I went home to Canada, and then I ended up being able to return, and now I'm in Spain, and I'm with the family here, and they're both Spanish. So yeah, they're Spanish, and they have 2 children, a 12-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. And
Okay.
yeah,
So you had like basically whole Europe
yeah, well,
preparing.
kind of, yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And so why did you decide to start the au pair experience again after your 9-month break in Canada?
I wasn't in Canada the whole time. But I was in Europe for part of the time and working here at a summer camp in Germany, actually, for kids. But anyway, I decided because I think, well, I mean, I always enjoyed au pairing, and I always kind of thought I'd like to do it again, and maybe even in a different family. And I also think that right now it's one of the best ways to really experience life in another culture, because of course right at the moment well, travel's maybe opening up a little, but still, but au pairing's really good for that because you can still experience the life with the family, you can still see how people live. So even though you can't maybe visit all the cities, it's a good way to well, travel without going anywhere. So I like that.
Oh, yeah, very, very interesting. And well, concerning the cultural shock, I think that's the most interesting question for you since you come from Canada and you got the chance to travel to Europe a bit more. So, did you find something very, very shocking in the host families you lived with, or was the culture more or less not that the cultural difference not that striking for you?
I would say it, like I can definitely notice differences, but they're not overly striking, I guess, because I mean Canada and most of Europe anyway, is still, I guess, quite a westernized culture. So, but yeah, I mean, I think I really noticed with my Italian family, like I could tell they were they were very Italian, the way they talked, the way they behaved, the way they yelled a little bit, but like I mean, all affectionately, of course. But yeah, and I mean, just how they ate and how they interacted, and I guess the relax. I do see the relaxed culture a bit, like of Italy and of Spain too. Now that I'm here, like I'm getting used to having meals like dinner at 9 p.m. instead of at 6 or 7. So that's that's different than what I would be used to in Canada. But it's also not, yeah, it's not such a big culture shock that it took me like a month to adjust or anything. So no, I mean, I'm it's kind of off the boat and into the into the field. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, and concerning bureaucracy, you did apply for a visa, right?
Yes.
To come to Europe. Which kind of visa did you need, and how was the process? Was it easy to get it? Did it take long? How did it go?
I had an well, I applied for an Austrian au pair visa, and well, I wouldn't say it was easy. It wasn't tremendously difficult. It was more just a hassle, kind of like you have to do this step, and you have to do this step. So there's a few things like I had to get in Canada before I left, and I ended up calling the Austrian embassy like a dozen times probably in total to make sure. Like I said, okay, yeah, I'm Canadian. I'm calling because I'm going to au pair in Austria. I found the family. Like, what do I need? And like a lot of it was a little, I don't know, vague. Like I called and they would tell me something one time, and then the next time they would tell me something else. So it wasn't super clear. And luckily, I mean, luckily I had the family on the other end too, figuring things out. Um, but yeah, but after calling enough times, well, I guess I kind of got an answer. And then I remember I went to Ottawa to like shortly before leaving because I had to get something stamped by the Austrian embassy, which you could mail or you could do it in person. So I thought, yeah, no, I'll try to do it in person because I mean, well, then I have it, and anyway, and you could only like some of the rules were kind of funny. You could only bring this document in on a Wednesday, but I went there on a Tuesday because I thought, okay, I have to be 100% sure that this is the right place because if I wait until Wednesday and it's the wrong place, then like my flight's next week, so I can't wait until the following Wednesday. So I went on the Tuesday and I talked to them. I said, okay, this is the place I need to come tomorrow, right? And said, yeah, but you have to come tomorrow. And I said, okay, yeah, I just wanted to be sure because yeah. And then they said, wait, are you Andrew? I said, yeah, I'm the one who called. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, give it to us now. We can do it. So I thought, okay. And then they stamped it and it was on my way. So I thought, well,
So they got to know you through the calls,
yeah, I
basically.
guess so. Anyway, and then yeah, and then I went to Austria and then took a language course. And after that, I could officially get the visa. So I was able to get the visa from Austria. I know some countries it's different. And then Spain and Italy, from my understanding, you can kind of au pair without a visa as long as you follow the guidelines for staying in the Schengen area. So that's what I'm doing now. I was able to come to Europe now because of like family ties, kind of. So that's the reason I was allowed in. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the visa process isn't always as smooth, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's also a bit annoying because of course bureaucracy. It's always complicated, but yes, I'm glad you made it and you are in Europe right now, so that everything went well.
Thank
Okay, and well, would you try to describe your au pair tasks in general for every family, the things you normally do as an au pair?
Yes. So for my very first family, I'd say that was a lot of getting the kids to school, like just walking them for 20 minutes or so and then picking them up at the end of the day and spending a bit of time with them until the parents came home. And so it's been a little bit different with everyone. For my Italian family, I was mostly with them in the summer, but I was with them like I think for about a month during the school year, and then the parents took them to school, and I actually kind of slept in then because I found that if I was there in the morning, it just became like more hectic because they're all rushing and having breakfast and then going out. So for that one, but yeah, for them when I was in the summer, I was usually with the kids. Well, it could vary. It could be anywhere. Like I mean, well, some days, even on the weekends, the parents' jobs were a little flexible. So some weekdays they were home, or they could, or we would even go somewhere on a weekday. But for the most part, the parents worked during the week, and then I would be with them usually between like 6 to 8 hours during the day. But luckily, then the kids were really, really good and really fun to be with. So we played games and we went biking. And yeah, and those kids did not fight really much at all, thank goodness, because otherwise, I think 6 to 8 hours a day would have been pretty long if they had been fighting. The third family, my job was mostly to be with the 1-year-old. And yeah, so I would feed her, obviously change her diaper when I needed to, put her down for a nap every day if we were successful. But overall, I think she was pretty easygoing. And yeah, sometimes I mean, in the living room they had a carpet and she had some toys and I could play piano, and I think she kind of liked that. She liked the music, so yeah. So I mean, that one was just kind of being there for everything she needed. And then yeah, then in Austria for the family I was with for a few months, that was they weren't super desperate for an au pair, but they just kind of had me come, and it worked well because that was when the shutdowns started. So then I was just entertaining the kids because the parents were working from home and the kids were at home and I was there, but they were in the country, so that was nice. We could still go outside and roam around. Yeah, and played games with them. And then my family here is really kind of looking for, I think, English help. I mean, and the kids speak quite good English, but just having somebody here to reinforce if they're, or what they're doing correctly, and correct them if they're making an error. And yeah.
Okay. Cool. And well, what about, of course, the experiences were pretty different, but is there something that you didn't like about them in general or about your pair experience? So something you would say, huh, maybe that I would do differently, or I don't like this aspect of the program, or would you say more or less
I mean,
everything's
overall, I
positive?
think my families have been pretty good. But what I always say to people when they ask me like, "How's au pairing?" is I mean, I say like au pairing is really depends. I mean, it depends on your attitude, of course, and what you expect, but it also does depend a lot on the family. And if you get a good match, that makes the job, and if you don't, it really breaks the job. Because obviously, as an au pair, you're not making that much money, but it's the experience that's important. So I mean, so I have talked to au pairs through like au pair Facebook pages and stuff who are not enjoying it, and I mean, I think it's always good to hear both sides of the stories too, the au pairs and the families. But but anyway, but I think there's at least a bit of truth into what they're saying, where they're working like more and they're cleaning more, and I mean, if you're working 30 hours a week and kind of hating it and only getting paid, I mean, 300 euros a month, then it's not a great job. But for mine, it's been pretty good, I guess. But anyway, but to answer your question, the first family I was with the three boys in Austria, they fought a lot, and that was tough. And yeah, and the one in particular, he could often be quite mean to his younger brother. So that part I didn't like. What else? Mostly it's been, yeah, pretty good. I do tend to look for shorter term things because I don't know, how do I describe it? I think that well then I don't know, then it's still fresher for me and it's fresher for them, and we don't grow tired of each other. And yeah, yeah, and then like for example, visiting people too, and especially now with Corona, like now I'm I'm not really interacting as much as I normally would because I don't want to expose the family to any additional risk. So like we're currently on a short-term contract, but we might extend it, but we'll see. But yeah, but my kind of plan is to spend the time with the family. Then once I'm done, well, then I can go meet people and do that for a bit and live more socially, I guess. But in the meantime, it's nice to be here. Um, Sorry, I think you asked me a question. I kind of spiraled
No
off.
worries, you have the space to say whatever you want. So it's
Right.
nice to hear such different experiences when we do these interviews. So it's always very, very interesting. And what I would like to ask you is, for example, being a male au pair, right? Do you feel that the families you've been to, they needed a male au pair? So were you like a bigger brother? Were you like a model for the kids that you took care of?
I mean, I think that the first family, as I said, they wanted an au pair, and with their three boys and with them fighting, I kind of thought like, yeah, no, they probably should have a male. I mean, otherwise they need a female with her sleeves really rolled up who's like ready to, hammer it out. And I mean, she could probably do a better job than I did because I struggled with that. I'll be honest. When they started fighting, it was ah. But yeah. Then the, I mean, the other families. Well, I think that I did end up being a big brother. I don't know if that they necessarily needed a male. Although the last family I was with in Austria during the first lockdown, I think that was nice since they also had two boys and they were they were quite adventurous, like quite sporty, and I think that they enjoyed having a male. But that being said, yeah, I think that even there a female could have done quite well, and the rest I would say really could have gone for either. Like I try to actually sometimes I ask it or sometimes I don't. It depends how the conversation with the family goes. But like if I might even ask the family, like, are you comfortable with a male au pair? Because I mean, I try to say I do things slightly different than a female. I mean, I can still make beds, I can still, tidy up, I can still whatever, play games with the kids. But of course, I mean, I'm not gonna paint nails. I don't really do that. So just to make sure that, yeah, is a male something you're looking for? Yeah. Sorry, did that answer the question?
Yes, you did answer the question. Perfect. Okay. Well, I have just two last questions for you. The first one would be, is there anything that you wish somebody would have told you before beginning these experiences you had as an au pair?
Um, that is a good question. I mean, I think that because I did know somebody who was an au pair, that helped, and I kind of had an idea of what I was going into. Maybe one thing I would say is that, I mean, one thing to remember is that if you don't quite match with the family, it might like it's often not their fault, and it might not be your fault either. Like sometimes the match just isn't quite there, and you can match a lot better with another family. And I mean, with going into my second family, like the one in Italy, I found that too. Like, I mean, and I liked my first family in Austria with the three boys, and I still keep in touch with them a bit, and I get along with them. But I did feel It wasn't really what I was expecting. Like it was, I guess, a bit more. How do I describe it? Yeah, I just didn't feel as much of a part of the family. I felt like I was there kind of as an extra to help out, but wasn't really totally included. And I think for some people that might be perfect, like because they did give me a lot of free time, and for some people that's I think what they want is they want time to be able to do their work, but then also meet others, explore in the city, and enjoy their time. But for me, I was looking for more of a uh, how do I say it? But anyway, more of an experience with the family, like more of a connected experience with them. And when I went to Italy with that family, I found that like even on the weekends when I was free, I quite often spent it with them. I mean, I would sometimes go do little things on my own, but for the most part, like we were doing things together on the weekends, whether that was going to the mountains or playing a board game, or we went to a theme park that was an hour away, like a few times, or quite often visiting some family. Like that was nice too, like go to the grandmas and we'd come. So that worked well. So I'd say that, I mean, it's a bit hard coming from another country because then you usually have to get a visa, and then to get the visa, like they probably want you to stay a year. But yeah, but basically, and I guess I can. It's a little tangent, but I actually was going to stay with that first family a year. Then what happened is the mom's sister ended up moving in, and that was the mom who was from Peru. So her sister, of course, was also from Peru, and the sister's husband was from Senegal, and they were really really lovely. Like really, I really liked them. But anyway, that meant that the house was quite full, and they weren't working because well, and they had 3 kids, so ended up being quite a full house, and it was a big house, but still with there was a family of 5, another family of 5, plus me, and the sister wasn't working because she had like a baby girl who was 4 months old, and the husband wasn't working because they were working on getting him all the papers. So then it kind of actually ended up working out, and yeah, and in some ways I think that worked out for the better
Mm-hmm.
for me and for them too, because then they could keep the money in the family rather than have an au pair. But anyway, yeah, sorry. So, but in short, to answer your question, if the match doesn't feel right, then don't be afraid, like, don't give up. Don't think that it's like this everywhere. And
Mm-hmm.
don't be afraid to look at other options. Because if you go in with a good attitude and the right mindset, the positivity, and you find that the match wasn't quite what you were looking for, then try to ask around, maybe see what other au pairs have to make sure that your vision is something realistic. And if it
Yeah.
is, then keep looking. Yeah.
Okay. And how would you describe a good match? So, did you understand right away that, for example, the Italian family was pretty cool from the video calls, or it took you like a week or 2 weeks to adapt first and understand how the dynamic worked? Because of
Yeah.
course, if you meet people online, it's very important to like get to know them through the video calls. It's not like you are matched by a full service agency that does all the paperwork for you. So that's
Yeah.
I think an interesting point.
Yeah. No, I'd say that is a good question because often, yeah, it can be hard to meet via video call, and then you get there, and then it's always a different experience in person. But I would say, yeah, like you really have to you have to kind of see how you feel after you have the video call. Like, are you quite excited to meet them, or or not so much? Because I mean, of course, I've also talked with other families who I haven't gone to, and I mean, I think that all of them, pretty much all of them, have been really nice, and I mean, some I did feel good about, some I felt like maybe this isn't quite what I'm looking for. So, of course, don't be afraid to ask questions, and really try to ask like how they see the au pair fitting into their home and into their lives, and see if it's the answer that you want.
Okay, I think that's very precious advice. So I hope it will help other au pairs, maybe in your same situation or similar. And okay, I have just one question left. I think it's pretty obvious, but still, I'm gonna try. The question is, would you do it again?
I would, yes, I would, and I would recommend others to do it. As long as, I mean, if it's something they're interested in, of course, then yes, I'd recommend others to do it, and I would do it again myself too.
Okay, cool. Then I think that's the end of our interview. And yes, thank you so much for participating, Andrew. I think it's gonna be very helpful for other au pairs.
Excellent. Thank you, Felicia.